Hello everyone and welcome to the Gaming Den. Today is going to be an episode that is actually going to talk a little bit over the Slaanesh campaign that I did. I want to go ahead and say this is going to be actually talking about what did I do wrong with that campaign. I want to go over a little bit about what do I have to say about my campaign, the very first campaign I did on early access. And so as we go ahead and go into this, I want to go ahead and just show you a few mistakes I think you guys should try to avoid as you play your Slaanesh campaigns. I should have done this video earlier, but I got sidetracked by a lot of different things. So let's just get straight into it. So first off, I want to go ahead and say that going for this research right here, euphoric dominance, which is the mass proliferate cult, is not a bad technology to start off with immediately. However, if I was to go back and do things differently, I would probably say I would go ahead and put in one of the diplomatic ones first, like the plus 40 or 30 with the Warriors of Chaos and such like that. Or even do the Slaanesh corruption one up or something like that. I'd have to do a little more review on the technology tree again, but I think I would go diplomatic relations war just because I could get the seduction up faster that way. That's one thing I could do with diplomacy and such like that. So that's something I would definitely probably will do if I don't go for the proliferate cults, because I can make the cults with just cultists instead of doing the proliferate cults that way. Granted, I will say the proliferate cult is still really good, but it's better later the game goes, only because it's something you want to be doing when you have a lot of cultists to use, devotees or whatever they're called. Essentially, point of the matter is like the cost of it is something you don't want to be looking for at the beginning of the game anyways, so you should probably be looking for more diplomatic relations or the growth, the control. Essentially, the dominance is not a bad technology to research, but not right away. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get straight to this next one. And the next one is actually going to be right here. These are both things that are started off like legitimately the beginning of the game. And I'm going to go ahead and say right quick, I know this is in the way, but the thing I had done wrong here is like, yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be done in this fight because this fight's really easy. But what I didn't do throughout the rest of the campaign in general is I didn't use the seduction at all. So that's why I'm using this for the example. It's not because I needed this to do someone in this fight. That's not necessary. This fight is not necessary to do that at all. It's a super easy fight. I will say I never did it though throughout the entire campaign. So the problem here is that I actually didn't use a core mechanic of Slaanesh because I never did understand how it worked. It's actually very simple. All you do is just click on one of the units and it seduces depending on how much it costs, and you take them for yourselves for the fight. And from what I understand, you don't actually need to destroy the unit yourself. It will destroy itself at the end of the fight. Now, I don't know if that's confirmed or not. I haven't played Slaanesh ever since this campaign myself. I haven't tried it, so I can't say for certain. So if you're watching this in the late future, this could be changed. This will be probably something I will know by then. But for now, I do not know when this is because when this is posted, the game's only been out for like a couple days, and I haven't played it since the game came out myself. Mostly just because I've been busy with other things. All right, onwards. So the next thing that I think I did wrong involves more along the lines of, I don't think it was I'm going to go ahead and put it right here though, but it involves using these. But along also, well, I only used this like maybe once or twice, but I didn't use the actual first one at all. I think it's not quite worth it. But at the same time, I didn't make use of them where I could have. But the other thing is that what I didn't do. All right, so the next thing actually involves using these armies, actually. I actually, instead of using them the way they probably should have been, I should have been keeping them a little bit more active with my current military and then just pressing onwards with them, whereas instead of sending them out on their own to do their own thing. Now I want to say that actually at the same time, this army wasn't something I should have done as early as I did. I probably should have waited a little longer, but we have also then the issue, where was it again? That we didn't make use of Slaanesh gifts. I was wondering how you seduce the beastmen. And I actually ended up finding out that, let me see if I got back up a little bit. Nope, too far. Okay, whatever. So, point of the matter is I was trying to figure out how do you seduce the beastmen. The way you seduce the beastmen is using the gifts of Slaanesh. And how you do that is through heroic actions. I did not quite realize that was a way to give the gifts of Slaanesh as well. Now, granted, you can give gifts of Slaanesh through fighting as well, but beastmen are not going to be able to get gifts of Slaanesh through fighting to the level of where you need to get them to be able to seduce them, because they die out really easily since they're a horde faction. They don't have any settlements, so it's harder to give them the gifts through fighting. So through that, essentially what I'm trying to say is, long story short, use your heroes for gifts of Slaanesh along with your fighting. That is how you get the gifts of Slaanesh to go up, and that is how you get them to be seduced faster. Going on, and that also gives you devotees as well. So you want to be making use of that mechanic. Next, this one involves actually. We'll go back to these guys. It goes to these guys now. I think piecing out with them was not a bad strategy. I don't think it was a bad strategy at all. I think getting on peace treaty with them is fine, but at the same time, what I could have done instead is I could have also continued to fight them, and then could have kept the devotee army at the place I had it, and then just dealt with them while I was there. But at the same time, I could have given gifts of Slaanesh to the hero actions. This goes back to hero actions. So the story for this one, that is a mistake that I made with this, is that I actually don't think I did proper mechanics for this faction. I could have either dealt with them, or I could have seduced them. Either one, honestly. But at the same time, I think taking those for yourselves is not bad, because it gives you resources, and resources are good for Slaanesh because Slaanesh is very diplomatic, and because Slaanesh is very diplomatic, you can get trade agreements and stuff like that quite easily. So there's two ways you could go about it with Slaanesh. Either you could go ahead and take that for yourself, or you seduce them. Either one. I can't say vassals are super useful just because of the way they are. They still get declared war on stuff like that, but at the same time you still make more money from them as if you were to play someone like, say, vampire counts. Not that you can play vampire counts right now in Warhammer 3, but point of the matter, the next mistake I made involves actually the fights themselves. One of the fights themselves, it was this one, because Scarbrand, I think, was there. Yeah, Scarbrand's coming right there. Okay, so it was this fight. So this was a fight I probably could have done had I done a seduce unit effect. Now, granted, I don't know if I could seduce units from multiple armies, and it has a budget for each one of them, or if it has it just for one of them. But point of the matter, this comes back to the seduce unit. I could have made my life a lot easier if I seduced the unit from one of the armies. I'd have to look at the fight again, or I'd have to at least look at the situation again. But for what it comes down to is I didn't make use of my seduced units. I could have easily have won this fight had I seduced a unit, or at least two, depending on how much. Well, it depends on what like my budget was looking at in that fight. Point of the matter is I didn't use proper mechanics for the Slaanesh, and that's where I messed up. This was a fight I could have easily have won, but I didn't because I messed up. So onwards. Get to, not this fight, a little bit more forward. I don't think it was this fight. No, it's further along. It's actually this fight. It's actually this fight here, yeah. Okay, so this fight, I'm not going to show the fight itself, I don't need to, but the long story short is that this fight in itself was winnable as well, because I didn't use the seduced units. But the other mistake I made was actually the fact that I was starting to, that salt and anger and just in general being upset take advantage of me. And it was making clouding my judgment and stuff like that. So this comes down to more of a player thing at this point than it does to be like Slaanesh in itself. But it does come back to the fact of I could have got a seduced unit, which could have been either the Furies or the Warhounds themselves. Either one of those, that would have been vastly valuable, just because those fast units are what really kicked my butt, because they would slow me down, and because they would slow me down, I would get copy of the other units. Because I got copy of the other units, I would get screwed because of that. And I let my salt, my anger, just take advantage and give the enemy the advantage that they shouldn't have had when I had the advantage technically the whole time. Now, this is just, like I said, this is more comes back to the player thing, so just understand that don't let salt consume you. Try to keep it under control as best as you can. If anything, like I said, it comes back to I didn't seduce a unit when I should have, but I also didn't know how to seduce units at that point. So that was on me. So yeah, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. After that, it just kind of goes downhill. It's essentially this fight all over again. And then I end the stream. So with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me here today. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much for all your support. And thank you for joining me in the gaming den. Thanks for watching.